My name is Mohib Siddiqui, and the novel I chose for my ISP is Dracula by the wonderful Bram Stoker. Although Dracula is distinctly portrayed as a masculine figure, he possesses many feminine traits that undermine his masculinity. I will be exploring how Dracula embodies the traits of a female and is closely related to significant feminine concepts. I will elaborate on this by talking about his physical appearance, his desire for one's blood regardless of gender, and the idea of him representing characteristics of a mother. Firstly, we must consider Dracula's physical appearance. In the beginning of the novel, Harker described Dracula to have very red lips. According to Medium.com, red lips have been a signature look in fashion for more than 5,000 years. It's been worn by women to feel bolder, stronger, and more confident. This suggests that Dracula shares similar qualities to that of a woman. In addition, Harker stated that his hands were white and fine. As reported by HLLabs.com, a man's skin thins gradually with age, whereas a woman's skin's thickness remains constant until about mid-40s, insinuating that Dracula appears feminine. Furthermore, Harker also described the skin of Dracula as extraordinarily pallor. During the Victorian era, which was the period Dracula was published, women would typically go for a pale look. As stated on AtlasObscura.com, women who used these products coated their faces and arms with white paints and enamels in an effort to cover their natural skin tone and mimic an extremely pale complexion. The pale skin tone of Dracula resembled the skin tone of women during his time, therefore emphasizing his ladylikeness. Dracula's red lips, fine hands, and pale complexion signify his femininity. In order for his appearance to be interpreted, Stoker effectively used imagery for the reader to imagine the subtle feminine characteristics of Dracula. He wrote that Dracula had very red lips and skin that was extraordinarily pallor. This enables the reader to visualize the femininity of Dracula. Dracula's desire for blood, regardless of gender, is quite questionable. When he caught the three sisters with Jonathan, Dracula was furious. He exclaimed, "This man belongs to me!" This is considered feminine, as women generally have a desire towards men, equivalent to how Dracula had a desire towards Harker. Additionally, according to Rampage.us, taking blood out of another person and drinking it is also very intimate. Dracula would take blood out of any human, including a man. Taking this into consideration, the thought that Dracula would share intimacy with another man is indeed feminine. Moreover, Science.howstuffworks.com states, vampires may be attractive, highly sexual beings, seducing their prey before feeding. As mentioned previously, it is common for a female to seduce a man, and the thought that Dracula would do likewise is feminine. The craving and yearning Dracula had towards men is comparable to a woman, therefore signifying his femininity once again. Stoker effectively utilized tone when Dracula shouted at the three sisters. The context of the scene, as well as the use of an exclamation mark, implies that Dracula shouted at the sisters in rage, essentially revealing his expressive fancy towards men. On a final note, it is evident that Dracula featured traits analogous to a mother. In the novel, Dracula is the only vampire that is capable of creating another vampire. Considering this, the idea of reproduction and motherhood is heavily implied. Another example of his maternal attributes would be what Mina said. He pulled open his shirt and with his long sharp nails opened a vein in his breast. When the blood began to spurt out, he seized my neck and pressed my mouth to the wound, so that I must either suffocate or swallow some of the... Oh my god! Dracula forced Mina to suck blood out of his chest, resembling the act of how a mother would breastfeed a child. Lastly, according to VampiresAreReal.com, most are either born vampires or experience an awakening to their vampiric nature later in life, usually in their teen years, but it can happen later in life. In the novel, Bram Stoker did not reveal how Dracula became the kingpin of vampires. It can be assumed that he practically birthed all the other vampires in the novel, akin to how a mother would birth her children. The idea of breastfeeding, reproduction, and motherhood was represented by Dracula, which signified his relation to significant feminine concepts. The use of analogy was applied to make the connection between two different ideas. For example, how Mina sucking blood out of Dracula's chest resembled the act of how a mother would breastfeed a child. On a different note, Dracula infecting Mina was an example of character development. Dracula was finally spreading and reproducing his vampire disease overseas as he had been planning. By applying his mother-like abilities, Dracula went from a local problem to a nationwide and potential worldwide problem. In summary, Dracula is an extremely feminine character. Dracula embodied the traits of a female and is closely related to significant female concepts. The physical appearance of Dracula was quite feminine. He had very red lips, as well as fine and pallid skin. Moreover, he would mooch off human blood, careless of their gender. His longing for Harker and intimacy with men accentuated his femininity. Lastly, Dracula held specific attributes comparable to a mother. The idea of breastfeeding, reproduction, and motherhood indicated his association with feminine concepts. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching and listening, and have a great rest of your day.